Your mind is always seeking novelty. It's always seeking out more information, new information, whether that's positive or negative or useful or unuseful, to enrich your perspective of this reality. And that's why so many people find themselves spending hours of their time every single day scrolling social media. We go from one post to the next, and we think that the next post we see will give us more novelty. In actuality, that's simply not the case. What's really happening there when you find yourself scrolling endlessly on social media is the dopamine your brain is releasing into your nervous system in the anticipation that that next post will give you more. This is why we get so hooked. This is why we find it so difficult to put the device down and actually seek out real, meaningful novelty within our own lives. What this infinite scrolling does when we find ourselves on social media for hours on hours every single day is it just gives your brain barely enough, just a slight little bit of dopamine to essentially sedate it. You're sedated to the point where you don't feel the need to actually do new and unique and fulfilling things within your own life. And the interesting thing is that many people think they're addicted to distraction, but that's not at all what it is. You see, in actuality, the problem is that you're satisfying a legitimate need, which is novelty, the idea of seeing something or experiencing something that is new and unique to you, with a counterfeit supply, because whatever you see online is not the actual experience. You're viewing somebody experience whatever that thing is, but the brain, it plays a trick on you, and it thinks that it's actually experiencing whatever that thing is, even though you're simply getting the short end of the stick, or you're getting the counterfeit supply of real novelty. Now, there's this idea of novelty theory that was popularized by Terrence McKenna. Now, Terrence McKenna, if you don't know, was a brilliant speaker from the late 70s, 80s, and 90s up until his death in 2000. He talked a lot about consciousness and psychedelics and a vast, wide array of other topics that you can go search for yourself. But he came up with this idea of novelty theory. And this essentially explains that the universe evolves toward this increasing complexity as time passes. And with that increasing complexity comes this interconnectedness that continues to evolve as time passes on. Now, he believed that novelty, new and unique and interesting things that we can experience, ultimately prevail over habit, the things that you do on a daily basis. Now, he also believed that the mind and the technology that we use was a reflection of the complexity of the current state of the universe. So, in simple terms, what this means is that the universe is literally trying to become more interesting. And I know that's a bit to wrap your head around. It's a bit for me to wrap my head around as well, but let me explain. Now, to make sense of this novelty theory, McKenna also talked a lot about time and one's subjective experience with time. So he believed that time is an experience rather than a constant. Of course, we have 24 hours in a day. There are 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute. And yeah, I get that, but he believed that the density of novel events determine how fast time seems to go by. So think about it. If you live the same sort of pattern, the same sort of routine on a daily basis for years, let's say 5 years, you wake up at the same time, you go to the same job, taking the same commute, you talk to the same people, yada, 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 doing the same things over and over and over again. After those 5 years, you're gonna look back and be like, wow, where did the time go? Because within your daily experiences, there was no novelty. Every day was the same. You followed the same structures, patterns, routines, with the same people, etc. But if you were somebody who goes all in with trying new things and having novel experiences, where one day you're learning this skill and then you're traveling to this place and then you're talking with these new people, you are trying to learn this new language, you're going to that country to speak that language and practice it, and you're doing this wide array of things that are unique and interesting and challenging on a daily basis, it will feel like your days are longer. Now, I know that might seem a bit backwards because the common belief is that yeah, time flies when you're having fun. While that might be the case, what I'll say is that when you live the same day on repeat for, we'll say, a month will pass and it'll feel like nothing new happened within your life. And if we go off novelty theory that Terrence McKenna coins, then this makes total sense, because if your experiences are static, if nothing changes, if your routines are the exact same, then it'll feel like time is just flying by, because the density of the time is related to your subjective experience. Now, as I mentioned, if you're somebody who's trying new things, you're pushing beyond your comfort zone and you're trying to find these interesting aspects of reality to experience, then yeah, you're gonna feel like there's more time in your day. Let's say in the morning you go to a dance class and you've never danced before. Okay, you have that at 8 a.m. And then at 10 a.m. you're meeting somebody for coffee at a shop you've never been to. And then at 12 p.m. you pick up this random book from a bookstore and you read for an hour. Okay, that's another new experience. And then at 2:30, 3 o'clock, you hit the gym. But rather than following this specific routine you've been following for a few months, you say, hey, I really want to change things up. And then by 6 o'clock, you go back home and you cook some new sort of meal you've never cooked. My point with saying this is that by the end of the day, you will feel like you had this very long and enjoyable and adventurous day, because all the things you did were vastly different from the things you typically do. You have broken your typical patterns. You've experienced deep and rich novelty from the moment you woke up until the moment you go to bed. When you spend your time doing novel things, having these new and enriching experiences that are unique and fascinating to you, then your brain requires more power. It uses more of its resources to make sense of what you're doing, to think critically in the situations you find yourself in, and then encode those experiences into your memory. Whereas if you live the same sort of day on repeat, then you're not really using more brain power. All your brain is doing is tapping into the existing memory centers of doing those same things day after day after day. Essentially, when you live the same day on repeat for weeks and months and years, your brain takes the same general templates that you have of that sort of routine, and that's how you perceive reality through, is that same generic template that you've become so accustomed to, because every single day looks the exact same. Now, back to the idea of fake novelty that I mentioned before with social media. Going off Terrence McKenna's theory, he believed that there's a huge difference between information and novelty. You see, information is objective. It is simply data. But novelty, that is subjective. It's based on one's individual experience. And this is to say that no matter who the person is, their perception of that novel event will be different from another person, because of course the way we perceive reality is based on our experiences, our neurological networks within our brain, our intelligence, and of course our preconceived notions based on our parents and our caretakers and the things we've learned throughout our entire lives. Now, when it comes to being on social media and endlessly and mindlessly scrolling from post to post to post, it's very important we consider the fact that the algorithm is tailor-made to validate whatever you already believe in. So the posts you see, the videos you watch, the articles you read, all these things back up your existing beliefs. There's nothing novel about it. And to me, that's a major issue, because what this is doing is it's making people's perceptions and worldviews very constricted, very limited. And we're more closed off to the opinions of others, even if the opinions of others may actually benefit our lives. The things we see online keep us in the same mental loops. We think the same, we experience the same sort of emotions, we act the same. The patterns that make up our life continue to run on and on and on, rather than forcing our brains to create new patterns that experience new things within our life. Now, you see, real novelty, on the other hand, to me, it requires three things. The first one is genuine surprise. The second thing is some sort of a perspective shift. And the third thing is an experience outside of your coded memory. So, of course, I'm sure there are other variables you could mention, but to me, these three are the pillars of what a real novel experience is. And to me, your social media algorithm, my social media algorithm, all of our social media algorithms cannot provide any of that because, yeah, while the content you see might not be what you expect, it will be something along the lines of what already fits your worldview. Because what you see on social media, what your algorithm provides you, validates your existing mental models of the world. Look, real, authentic, meaningful novelty is found in the present moment. And I know that sounds cliche, it sounds like, oh, yep, another guy telling me to be mindful, but ultimately this is what it is. You can't experience genuine novelty when you're half watching this and half listening to this and half paying attention to a conversation you should be fully immersed in. You simply cannot because your attention is split in so many different directions that you're not dedicating your mental resources to any of them at all. You're essentially here physically, but mentally you're just off in Neverland. You're just dreaming. And ultimately, when you don't pay attention to anything with true mindfulness, with true attention, then, well, life passes you by really quick. Most of us, at least a few times every single day, will find ourselves in this position where we're half paying attention to a video, we're half watching whatever garbage we have on TV, when we're half listening to our loved ones telling us a story about their day. And it's the harsh reality of the modern world. There are so many competing stimuli within your environment trying to compete for your attention. And what I've realized within my own life and with working with my clients in one-to-one work is that we try to attend to so much within our days that we never really pay attention to anything at all. And at the end of the day, when we look back on how we spent our time and energy, we can't really remember much because we didn't give all of our mental resources to paying attention to the important things within our lives. Having true, meaningful presence in this very moment you're in is, to me, a precursor to experiencing real novelty within your life. And what you'll begin to realize is that when you have true presence, when you are totally mindful of the situation you're in right now and every single moment that unfolds in front of you, or through you, I should say, you'll realize that there is novel and unique and meaningful experiences everywhere, happening all the time. As I sit here recording this video, I can notice the novelty of the fan I have blowing on me, which I haven't even been hearing since I've been speaking. I can notice the light shining on my face. I can notice that spot on the wall over there that I quite honestly never noticed. And I know these are just minor details. These are simple examples, but you get the point. What I've realized is that one's presence is the gateway to novelty. And it just so happens to be that the attention economy is stealing your presence every single day with all these things on social media and the news and the energy vampires you see and experience on your daily life, all right? So the solution isn't rejecting technology. The solution is not becoming a recluse and living in the woods. None of that. I actually think both of those things would set you back even further and contribute to even more mental disorder, you could say. But if you feel like your life is passing you by really quickly and every day seems like a blur, then I recommend total immersion in nature. I recommend trying something new every single day. I recommend speaking with new people every single day. These things that inherently make us human because we are social creatures. And our brains are novelty-seeking machines. We need new things to explore. We need new conversations to be had. We need new people to meet. But if you're always living out the same patterns day after day, going to the same places, eating the same foods, following the same routines, then your brain doesn't get that. And you will seek it out in ways that are shallow and essentially counterfeit like endless scrolling, like alcohol and drugs, and mindlessly watching TV for hours, trying to get the hit of something that you think will be enough, but really isn't. So, yeah, hope this makes sense. Hope you enjoyed this. My main point here is to really drive home is that if time is just passing you by really quickly, then there's a very good chance that you're living every single day on repeat. And there's this richness and this uniqueness to living life every single day slightly differently. Trying new stuff. Becoming a beginner at something, whether that's learning a new skill or a new language or building that new business, whatever it is. So, yeah, at this point, I'm ranting. Thank you for watching. I'll speak to you soon.